Good morning, everyone. This is Taylor, and this is our current video report for the Arkansas River. This is the first week of October, and some things have really changed on the Arkansas in the last week, actually a couple of days. From our boats, our guides are starting to see a lot of fish in that pre-spawn to spawning mode, which means we're seeing a lot of fish in the shallows. We're seeing some fish beginning to pair up, and I even yesterday saw some fish um, digging, actively digging reds. So, it's that time of year, and we're starting to get a little cooler in the night. So we're gonna see that more and more, and in the next couple of weeks to month, we'll see a lot of brown trout beginning to spawn. So be aware of that. When you're wading the river, please be aware that the brown trout do have reds in the shallow edges of the river, and just look for really clean gravel, and just kind of steer clear of walking through that type of water. If necessary, obviously get through the water and wade safely, but please be aware of that. Um, this does change feeding activity in my mind quite a bit. What we've seen in the last couple of days is that we're seeing less feeding activity in the shallower water. I think in that really initial pre-spawn stage, they feed really aggressively in the shallow water as they're just trying to gain, you know, gain some calories before they start to spawn. And they kind of are in that real territorial nature still to streamers, but the game changes a little bit as far as hopper dropper fishing goes, and we start to see fish feeding more actively in the heavy oxygenated riffle water that's a little bit deeper, and then when they're in the shallows, we see them more actively spawning, and when they're actively spawning, they really don't feed. And that's kind of what we see. Now, of course, if you get in a pocket where you've got some fish maybe in that pre-spawn nature in a real shallow section, they may chase a streamer out. That's them being territorial and not really feeding. So what we're seeing is in the morning, fish are still looking up for hopper dropper rigs, and some fish are hanging out at night in that shallow water and then still feeding in the early morning in that type of water. But we see fish either in that spawning activity in the shallows or in the heavier oxygenated water during that mid-morning to mid-afternoon period. And then if we do get a blueing hatch in the early afternoon to mid-afternoon, we'll see those fish kind of pull back into slicks and feed on those blue wings pretty actively. And we have seen some really nice blue-winged olive hatches, as well as some pretty sporadic tan caddis hatches, which are spurring activity in that mid-afternoon to even in the early evening time period. So what I suggest mostly is stay hopper dropper in the morning, early morning, then mid-morning maybe change to nymphing and focus on that heavier water. And then you can go to a hopper dropper or double dry or just specific catch matching dry in the early afternoon, mid-afternoon to early evening. So that's kind of what we suggest for the next few weeks, honestly, and maybe even into the end of October. If anything changes, obviously I'll hop on here and change it. But we'll see pretty consistent water temps as well as consistent flows here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we shouldn't see any change in that. And with the spawning activity going on, we shouldn't see any change in feeding activity as far as where those feeding lies are. Let's look at a few flies. Now, like I said, stay with hopper dropper in the morning. So basically I suggest still high vis, PMX, type of patterns in a size 12 to 14 for your hopper, so to speak, indicator fly on the top. Then what I suggest to drop are things like Red Thunders. Red Thunder is a very, very productive pattern, one of Curtis Andrews, an Idlewild signature tire, one of our guides, one of his patterns, just an excellent little tube body red quill kind of a tractor fly in a size 16 to 18 with that. And then, I suggest obviously a long drop on all of this stuff, 20 to 24 inches of 5X fluorocarbon. Then a 2-bit hooker in a rust color, and that's in a size 18 to 20 that we suggest there. Another great attractor pattern, double tungsten, gets down really fast. And then as far as nymphing goes for your lead fly, throw this under an indicator, or if you don't like the indicator fish, that's fine. Dead drift this stuff in that heavy oxygenated water. Rubber leg stone, pretty hard to beat. Just one of Larry Kingery's signature patterns with that custom chenille in the brown and the gold producing right now. 20-incher, we tie ours a little bit differently than everybody else, but pretty standard modeled stone fly there. One of my favorites right now, a number 12 Guide's Choice Hare's Ear, and that's with that flashback, soft hackle, kind of wet fly look, but just an excellent pattern, red thread, gold bead. And that's a size 12 on that hare's ear. Now when you're nymphing, throw that stonefly, something heavy, maybe another BB to get down, and then, trailing off of those stoneflies, we want blue-winged olive nymphs, because 75% of the fish that we're taking right now are on blue-winged olive nymphs. Black Thunder, number 20 to 22, just an excellent pattern right now. Tungsten black eye, it's pretty much the same looking pattern, just tungsten. One of Larry Kingery's signature patterns, the black eyes and a tungsten. Iceberg Betas, another excellent fly right now. Let's see if I can get it in there, little guy. Number 20 Iceberg Beta. It's got that nice big puff on it, and that's more of an emerger, but definitely fishing underneath the stonefly right now. So that's pretty much what we've got going on. Should be pretty much the same for the next few weeks. If anything changes, I'll be back on to let you guys know. Come down, the fishing's excellent. Whether you're from a boat, still enough water to float, pretty skinny, but still enough to float, and walk wading has never been easier. So still a lot of actively feeding fish, a lot of rainbows being caught, and just an excellent time to be out in this autumn weather in southern Colorado. If you have any questions, give us a call here at the Fly Shop office, 719-269-3474, or feel free to email me directly at taylor@royalgorgeanglers.com. Thanks, and have an excellent day on the water.